Call the meeting to order of the Wilmington City Council on this agenda briefing. I'm going to have to take a roll call at this time. I see the Mayor Pro Tem is in the room and coming to the dais. Councilman Rivenbark, you here? Councilman Emerson, are you here? Councilmember Barnett, are you here? Councilmember Spears, are you here?
Here.
Councilmember Waddell, you here? And the chair is here. Everybody's here and accounted for. Several presentations. C1 is a consent agenda, is approval of the minutes. C2 is a resolution accepting drainage easements for the Brookshire Beasley Drainage Improvement Project. C3 is a resolution authorizing filing of condemnation actions for acquisition of easements for the Brookshire Beasley Drainage Improvement Project. C4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a settlement agreement for a condemnation matter related to the Pine Grove North Intersection Improvement Project in the amount of $123,425. C5 is a resolution authorizing a contract for rollout refuse and recycling containers with Schaefer Systems International Incorporated of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we'd like to ask that you lift that item off tomorrow night and continue it until the second meeting in June.
Okay.
That's contingent on FY24 funding, and you have not yet passed that FY24 budget.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
C6 is a resolution authorizing an interlocal agreement between the City of Wilmington and New Hanover County for the processing of recyclable materials collected by the City of Wilmington for fiscal year 2024. C7 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute primary and secondary standby contracts for debris management, recovery, and removal services with DRC Emergency Services, LLC of Galveston, Texas, and TFR Enterprises, Incorporated of Linder, Texas. C8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Witt O'Brien, LLC, for comprehensive disaster recovery management services.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Read through this one and certainly love the idea and see the necessity of having something like this in place. I'm just wondering, do they operate on a retainer? There was no cost discussion whatsoever in the paperwork. So.
They'll be operated on an as-needed basis. The contract will be implemented. It'll be paid for out of FEMA funds for administration. Generally speaking, we've had this contract before. It's been with a different vendor. We've changed vendors this time.
Great, thank you.
But they don't wait on the FEMA payment.
No, sir, but they can be paid with FEMA monies.
But when FEMA gets here,
No, sir, they'll come immediately when we call them.
no, that's not what I meant. They come when we call them, but when they get paid now, and we get reimbursement from FEMA later.
Yes, sir.
Which just further magnifies the importance of that.
Yes, sir.
Undesignated fund balance.
Yes, sir,
Thank you.
absolutely.
C9 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to extend the interlocal agreement among the City of Wilmington, New Hanover County, and the New Hanover County Board of Education relating to athletic facilities.
I've got a question on
Yes,
that.
sir, Mr. Barnett.
Yeah. I read that, and at the end it said with other languages was used. And I was wondering what other languages, and then number two, I was wondering how are we doing with Robert Strange Park? 'Cause that look.
I'm not sure. Good morning, Councilman Barnett, and good morning, Council. I'm not sure I heard your first question clearly.
At the end of the presentation, you write the statement with other language was used. Like, I guess, some other things that you're going to be doing.
We added some clarifying language to the agreement that basically clarifies the roles and responsibility in terms of maintenance and also provides some more flexibility in terms of maintenance. We have found that New Hanover High School's baseball program, the coaches typically like to get involved with the preparation of the infield. The agreement has always said that the City of Wilmington staff shall maintain all of the facilities, and we still will be the primary party to maintain it, but it offers flexibility for them to help as well, and also clarifies communication chains between the city and New Hanover High School.
Okay, so are we doing anything? We're not doing anything.
There's no substantial
Right.
difference or changes.
Okay.
And then I think you had a question about Robert Strange.
Yes, I don't know, it doesn't look good to me. Maybe I'm looking at it like this instead of straight ahead.
We definitely, that's one of our oldest parks, and we do have aging athletic facility infrastructure in the city, in addition to Robert Strange Park, Godwin Stadium, and Legion Stadium as well. The city has a submitted but unfunded project to the CIP for repairs and replacement for all three of those facilities. We've also requested funding for a master plan for Robert Strange Park. That neighborhood is very invested in that park, and we think it's appropriate to do some community engagement before we spend any capital dollars out there to make sure that we're putting back in what the neighborhood wants.
Okay. All right, just want to keep it on the radar.
I would just, I mean, if you boil down, a lot of this comes through Legion Stadium Commission, and so we've got the experience that with Kevin Spears firsthand, but what we're attempting to do was get, this is a really strange situation, as y'all all know, if you've been on council long. Luke's probably the newest, but here we are, the city, we don't have anything to do with schools, but we're real involved, and this is the most involved we are, and that's because of Amy, you have to help me, but a 1940s contract, how we were gifted the property, essentially, and it's written in there. So we were just trying to get to what do they spend on the same fields at the other high schools, just make sure we were just getting our fair compensation. But the schools, and part of it I understand, and part of it I don't. But that they over there, it was hard to get the numbers out of the other schools. Well, we use the same toilet paper as we use inside, or we use there's a lot of stuff so where you couldn't figure out. So we just had to live with kind of a fairly vague number. There was some line items that were spot on, and others that were kind of like. And we kind of do this for grass, and but anyway, that was the goal, and I think we got a little closer to it probably. And I think that's and to do things like Robert Strange, while it's a city park, if the schools are going to play on it, I don't think we've ever done anything outside of Legion, have we, with the county? But it's just an interest. I mean, I want to work with them. Don't hear me wrong. I just want to make sure we that we're getting our fair share, because we put a lot of time in out there. Our staff does at Legion as well as the other fields. And certainly the softball field, that is. I forget, my name escapes me at the moment, but maybe you'll help me. But anyway, point being, that was the thrust of this whole thing.
Yes, so as everyone's well aware, Legion Stadium is the home field for New Hanover High School. New Hanover High School also utilizes Godwin Stadium as the home field for women's softball, and then Williston Middle School plays boys baseball and girls softball at Robert Strange. And so the athletics facility staff for the city did a really good job over the past year of examining what our actual costs are, line item by line item. And while the $192,700 that we are going to be reimbursed this year does cover all the materials, all the man hours, et cetera, we've come a long way with that. It does not include things such as utilities. It doesn't include my time, other exempt staff's time, but it is as close to the actual expenses as we've ever gotten. And then the agreement will increase 5% each year over the next 5 years, and so that by the time we get to the end of year 5, we're also coming closer to covering those costs at Godwin and Robert Strange.
So who would pay for? Because I'm looking at the statement here, and it says that we do not include replacement of equipment needed to maintain the fields or the capital improvements. Is that on the school?
No, that's city expenses.
Okay. So have we looked at Robert Strange and say, like, they really need better benches, better dugouts, or all that? Have we noticed that, or?
Yes, so the project that has been submitted to the CIP that's unprogrammed and unfunded, but it's been submitted, breaks down that project very specifically, and I'd be happy to share that with council if you desire.
Is that being presented in the budget this year?
No, it's unbudgeted.
unbudgeted.
As council's aware, the city suspended the CIP this year while it worked with the consultant to re-examine how we prioritize and fund projects, among other things.
Okay, I'd like to see that too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there ever a sunset period from when this property was granted to us in the 40s where we can divest ourselves of that property? It can be owned by that entity? No?
There's not. Complicating that is that the city received a land and water conservation grant on that property around 1980 for the pool and the tennis courts. And under the covenants of land and water conservation grants, they must be maintained for public use in perpetuity.
Oh.
There are cases where you can appeal to do something like a land swap. That would be the only way where we could divest ourselves of it if we found similar property of that size and operated it as a public park. As an example, when Independence Boulevard was extended past MP Park, NCDOT needed a little bit of that property, and so we provided that to the state, and in exchange, we purchased a parcel on the other side of MP to make that whole.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
C10 is a resolution authorizing the sale and consumption of beer, unfortified wine, and mixed beverages at the Wilmington's Municipal Golf Course. C11 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement to purchase a rescue boat from William E. Munson Company, Munson Boats of Burlington, Washington, in the amount of $119,989. Public hearings, PH1 is an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city to rezone property containing 1.4 acres of land located at 719 South 3rd and 716, 720, and 724 South 4th Street from UMX Urban Mixed Use District and R3 Medium High Density Mixed Residential District to UMX CD Urban Mixed Use Conditional District for mixed-use development. PH2 is an ordinance, oh, I'm sorry, Neil, go ahead.
Look, I guess the question's not necessarily, I mean, it's flushed out in this, this PH1, but it's really more of just our general policy question. I guess others up here may laugh at me because I was unaware of the payment in lieu for green space. I've always known about the trees, but did not know about that. And I just love to have a refresher or know anything about it.
Right, well, there's a requirement for 10% open space be set aside in UMX district. That requirement can be, a payment in lieu for that requirement could be authorized by the Design Adjustment Committee, which was approved, I believe, 2 months ago.
So follow me, where's the money go? How's it used?
Correct.
The whole, no, tell me how that,
Oh,
where
I'm
that
sorry.
money goes,
The
where?
money
Walk me through
goes
the
in-
whole process.
The money is collected and set aside for open space parks in that general geography.
So it goes into the Parks and Rec fund?
I might need some assistance
My
on what
point
the
is,
exact fund is.
if
but
that's
it's-
what it's going for, I want to know that's what it's going for.
Absolutely.
I don't want to, we'll spend it on this or that.
Oh,
I
no,
mean,
it's set aside specifically for open space and recreational activities in the city within this
So there's a
geography.
checking account somewhere with that, basically.
Yes, there's a separate account. Yes, sir.
Can we see how much is in that balance?
We can get that information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
PH2 is an ordinance amending the City of Wilmington's Land Development Code, Chapter 18, Article 5, Section 18-393, Regulation of Outdoor Advertising Signs.
Question, I had a question
Yes,
on
sir.
that one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a
Mr.
quick question. Reading this, it says, like the case summary, it says that the staff is denying this. All right,
Yes, sir. Both the staff and the planning commissioner recommend denial of this request.
the planning commission recommended it, but staff is denying.
No.
Both the staff and the planning
Oh, okay,
commission
I see it.
recommend
I'm
denial.
sorry, I see both denied. Okay, so help me on this, and this may be just because I don't know. But when I read the letter coming from the city manager, he says passage of the attached ordinance is recommended.
That is a mistake.
Okay, I caught a mistake.
You did.
Man,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
That's what you get paid to do. That's what
Okay.
you get voted to do.
He's not recommending, because I was confused.
We apologize for that mistake, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
I have a question.
ahead.
How's this break out in actual scenarios where we have somebody that we're compelling to move a billboard to another location?
I'm not sure I understand.
Is this, what was the reasoning for this?
Right, okay. So the applicant
Action.
is currently trying to relocate a billboard from an area of town, one of the gateways, I believe, and they're trying to find one in a designated receiving zones, but they're having trouble finding that, so they're trying to tweak the code to allow them closer to residential areas. Staff's concern is that you would be amending all of the receiving zones to allow them closer to residential areas.
They're being compelled by us to move it from the area that it is existing?
I believe the way the code is structured, it's advantageous for them to move it because they would be allowed to reconstruct and then add digital to it.
But there's nowhere for them to move it?
Right.
Tracking. Okay.
Sir Neil?
Is this the sign over at the Holmes Bridge?
I believe so, yes.
So we've already given them, as I recall, some help.
That's my understanding as well.
Yes. So they're, because I remember we made some leeway to get them to move that. I mean, we changed the rules for them at the time.
Yes, sir.
So we've already worked with this
Yes, sir.
applicant. All right, thank you.
Okay, PH3 is an ordinance amending the Land Development Code, Chapter 18, for various amendments and cleanup items related to building and site design, landscaping definitions, and administrative provisions. Ordinances, 01A is an ordinance making appropriation to the general fund for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. First reading only. Item 01B is the ordinance making the appropriations to the general grant projects, financial plans, enterprise funds, debit service fund, and the special tax district for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir?
The Safe Light program, looks like there's a 1.9-ish appropriated, and then red light fines and late fees, 1.482. So are we in the hole about 500 grand on that program? I thought it was supposed to be net-net.
Never. We got sued by the school system. We gave that money to the school system. There was an agreement between New Hanover County and the city of Wilmington to continue the program, to pay the cost to maintain it. Everything else goes to the schools, and that cost was going to be split between the city and the county. And that was primarily because of the intersection concerns and the accidents that we've had in a lot of intersections. That reduced a tremendous amount of accidents in those intersections, and we had the data to prove that, and we kept it for safety reasons. The schools get it for their, I guess, going to their general fund.
But it still costs us 500 grand.
That's about right. It's between 250 and 500, and I think it's closer to 250 because the fines went up last year. So we got a little more money.
With it, I mean, just going off of this line item, we've got red light fines and late fees at $1,482,703, and the Safe Light Camera Program appropriations of $1,979,220. So it's like 496, right? So it's costing us $500,000 to run the program.
Close to it, yes.
Yes, sir. Traffic engineering, traffic engineering, and police department both have advocated to keep this program.
Are we under a contractual obligation, Tony?
No, not contractual obligations, simply because of the public safety issues associated with it. Folks running red lights, so that we've got evidence of that. Police departments use it sometimes in surveillance issues, so we've had advocacy on the part of the staff to continue.
Is this consistently keeping us in the red?
I don't have the budget in front of me, but we also have shared amount with New Hanover County.
So they split this
I
with
don't want to
us?
say that directly until I can see the
Okay.
budget, but there is a shared responsibility.
All right. I'm not crazy about it, but okay. Thank you.
Well, just if anyone ever says the city doesn't contribute to the schools a little bit, there's your $500,000 plus
01C is an ordinance making appropriations to the capital projects funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. 01D is an ordinance amending various chapters of the City of Wilmington fee schedule for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. 02 is an ordinance making supplemental appropriations in the amount of $1,500,000 to the Special Purpose Fund for the implementation of the Healthy Homes Program funded by a grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. 03A is a resolution authorizing the city manager to secure the performance of the city's obligations under the purchase and sale agreement with River Ventures LLC to purchase of the northern downtown campus. And then 03B is the ordinance making supplemental appropriations of the Building Improvement Capital Projects Fund and Parking Capital Project Fund for the purchase and financing of the northern downtown campus. I believe that's it, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, we have a couple of things, excuse me, to follow.
Mr. Mayor, before you go on, Tony, I've kind of missed one. Just on P3, will we get a pretty detailed presentation tomorrow night? Will that be visuals, a little more why, the explanations? I mean, I read the rules, but
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to know the background a little bit more. Some
Yes,
of them
sir.
have some good background.
Is
others
there a
don't.
specific item? Because we were.
No, just each one. I mean, because sometimes the ones I don't think are important turn out to be. And we're talking
Yes,
about
sir.
doing something that's zoning block wide. Just, I'll have questions, but I mean, I'm just hoping, and be honest with you, on something like this in the future, love to have a little preamble, like a month before, 6 weeks before, so we can get involved with it more. And I was just asking Charlie, I missed the April meeting, and maybe you did already, but if you haven't in the future, when we're going to do something text, I'd love to, I don't know, having this short a time to really get into the weeds on it. And I know it's been by planning and other people, but I always feel like, if I'm going to vote for it, I like to understand it completely.
No, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, to answer Councilman Anderson's question about the payment in lieu of, the amount of money in the payment in lieu of park development account is $273,000.
Tony, I mean, not right now. I'm just curious, is that, so it only comes from the UMX, or is that written into other areas of town, or is it just UMX?
We'll investigate
You
further.
know what I just want to know where
It came from, where it's going.
And if it's like, happens once a year, or once every 10 years? Or
Yes, sir.
that kind of thing.
Yes, sir. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, we have one item for you after after the review this morning, and then we also have a request for a closed session. But to begin, we have Marilyn Cantarella, who is the chair of the Sister Cities Commission, who would like to make a presentation to council this morning.
Great, thank you. Marilyn, welcome.
The mayor left. It's okay.
The mayor had a phone call that he has to take, but he's going to be right back.
Okay.
Pull
Well,
pull the
as
microphone
you
down.
know or may not know, I just returned from
Marilyn,
visiting Don
Marilyn,
Lester.
pull
Oh,
the microphone down.
And while I was there, I met with their mayor and city council, and they made a presentation of a gift to the city of Wilmington. So I am acting as the courier for their elected council and bringing it to you. And I have to tell you, we talked a lot about heritage and a joint project between the two cities in the future on culture and heritage, one being our rail history. But the other part of their history is mining, and their mines shut down in the 80s, and they had an economic depression that lasted, not a recession, but a depression that lasted for a very long time. So this is one of the lanterns that the miners used. And it works because Ingrid Corby and Jim Blair at a council meeting, a commission meeting, checked it out. And I says, well, I didn't think it was actually a working one, but it is. So in the event you have a hurricane and lose power, this will be in the Sister City cabinet, and you just get it out, and you'll be good to go. But so we provided them with an etched map of the grid for the city of Wilmington in the 1880s, and that was provided courtesy of the Tourism Authority here in Wilmington, so we did not purchase that, but that's what I presented to them. And the other thing that was interesting, I wish some of you had been able to come, because they've done things that we're just experiencing now. They brought together their library, art museum, history museum, and I got to visit it and see what the new look was, and it definitely changed my view on how that might work in Wilmington. Other things that they've done, they built a new athletic stadium and thought they could do outdoor concerts as a moneymaker to help, recoup some of the investment, and it didn't work. The margins were too thin, it was a headache, so they just gave a 99-year operating lease to the professional sports team and said, you deal with it. So they also consolidated all employees in a new building like PPD. And so they've done the things that we're talking about today. So it was a real important learning opportunity. And I spent a lot of time with their director of economic development, their staff-wise, and director of culture and heritage and things like that. So it kind of was sort of all of the things that larger cities have done that we're just about to approach. So maybe next time, some of you can go and learn more about that. So the other thing is, on our Sister City website, there's a 3-minute video of some of the highlights and photographs. Oh, and we did get another gift, and I didn't bring it with me because I didn't have anyone to carry it. It's a reprint of a photograph of Billy Fisk, and Billy is the first American that died in England during World War II. So it was meant to be put in the USO Museum here as a World War II heritage city. But Billy Fisk, whom I didn't know, was actually an Olympic gold medal winner. Billy Fisk was responsible for Aspen, and he was just this extraordinary person who died in his 20s. So we will have that. And this photograph, by the way, is signed by 7 of the living people that flew with Billy in World War II. And the other thing about Billy, he pretended to be Canadian because the Americans hadn't engaged in the war yet, so that's how he got to be a British pilot. So it's a fascinating story, and it's being sent to us, so I couldn't carry it, I'll tell you that. But even this weighs 3 pounds.
Great.
But the photograph is very large. So that's kind of the long and short of it. There's a lot more. And there are also, people there who had come to Wilmington when John Betts was mayor, and I said, it's before my time, and, so there was a lot of memories and stories between both cities. So it was definitely a valuable opportunity.
Great, thank you, Marilyn. And on behalf of the mayor and the council, we really want to thank you for your undying commitment to the Sister City Commission and all you do. It's really, we're grateful.
Well, I'm happy to do it, and it's such a rich experience. That's why I say I wish more of you could have come. I mean, just the dialogue alone. And even in the energy space, as we drove through and I saw the wind turbines, and I asked the people who live there, does that offend you? These beautiful green pastures, and you have these big wind turbines, and they said no. So I said, and why is that? And they said, because when you think of what it replaced, so the coal-fired plants and things like that. And so attitudes are so key, and so the same was true when I asked ordinary people about the sort of combination of the museum and the library and all of that. And they were, they don't always agree, but it's interesting to see how communities evolve. So in the beginning, there might be a little bit of a a hiccup, but then eventually they come along. And the city has all electric vehicles, and they have charging stations behind the building. The mayor drives a Bentley, so that's an exception. Not that I'm suggesting there should be exceptions. But, and I didn't go in the Bentley. So, though I probably would have accepted the ride, but I did a lot of walking. So, and if you look at the little video montage, it's only 2 or 3 minutes. There was a steampunk festival. So tourism is an area that they've invested in and to help their economy. Jobs of the future, so they've built another, 2 more universities have been built there. One is a technical college for students 13 to 18 to work in the energy sector, and another is people to learn how to build and operate high-speed rail. So they're trying to be as forward-looking as they can under the circumstances, and their logistics hub is their big moneymaker. That's where all the new economic development has happened, but they are at risk of losing their local airport. So that's the big crisis for their council, and they want to buy it. So this issue of who controls key infrastructure is very important. The other thing that was a takeaway is they don't have, like we have a county government and local government, so they run their schools. So all the teachers are city employees, and so it's a much different structure than we have. So there's a lot to learn and think about for the future.
Thanks again, Marilyn.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, we have a rather unusual situation that we need to update you on in closed session. We did not provide you notification ahead of time. If you would prefer to wait until after tomorrow night's meeting to do the closed session, we certainly can do that. But we'd like to be able to, it's kind of contemporary, and we'd like to be able to get this information to you as quickly as possible.
From what I hear, there's a consensus that we proceed.
Okay. You have a motion?
Yes, so.
Motion to go into closed session.
Just read the statement first. Let me try to get through the statement here. Is there a motion to enter into a closed session pursuant to the provisions of North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318.11A5, in order for City Council to, 1, instruct staff regarding the city's negotiation position concerning the possible acquisition of real property. Do I have a motion? Mr. Anderson has made a motion, and Mr. Rivenbark has seconded that. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The closed session will be held in the council chambers. Everyone is asked to leave the chambers at this time.
Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem, you have to do a roll call vote.
I will. I'm going to finish giving instructions. You mean for voting? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Mr. Rivenbark, how do you vote? Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Barnett? Mr. Spears?
I was trying to talk while you were accepting this motion. You said there was a consensus. Where did the consensus come from? I hadn't consented to anything.
Well, here,
Mr. Spears,
here,
this is Councilman Waddell. The consensus came from the room.
yes, those present indicated that all of them would prefer to have the closed session at this time. So
Well,
if you would like to come and attend, we'd be happy to receive you.
Well, no, I'm
So what is your vote, Mr. Spears? Are you in favor of the closed session or not?
not.
Mr. Waddell?
Aye.
The mayor is not here, and the mayor pro tem votes aye. So that is 5-1. Let me read this. So obviously, everyone that's not involved in this matter must leave the room, and those members not in attendance will, I guess not. Mr. Spears, we'd be happy for you to come to personally join us in this room. Otherwise, the manager, somebody's trying to tell me something.
I believe by rules of order, if council allows, he can participate remotely.
if someone objects, then there would be a discussion about whether Mr. Spears could participate remotely. But if he says that this is done at need because he didn't have notice of the meeting, then that could be a reason for council to consider.
I
But
thought
somebody on
I
council-
thought in agreeing on our rules that we had agreed, especially when this is about real property and it's confidential. Is there any objection to Mr. Spears participating? Is that what I'm supposed to ask?
Yes, ma'am.
My understanding of the closed session rules and regulations were the same as yours. So, yeah, I object.
Question. Did we not say this was a special, this wasn't one that was? No, not special use permit, but more so, with the closed session, you said that this was one that we're gonna have, because we need it today, right? Yeah, okay. So,
We have an objection on the floor. Madam Attorney,
If there's an objection, then you can have discussion, and then council can vote on whether Mr. Spears can attend remotely.
is there any further discussion about?
I want to be clear what we're discussing. I mean, are you asking me we proceed without Councilmember Spears or proceed with them?
Mr. Spears would like to attend via remote.
Oh, no, that's not what I said. I never said I wanted to. What I said is, I object. I wasn't notified of a closed session, and I think that the new council's rule of order said that from now on, closed sessions will be held after city council meetings, not prior to,
No.
not during the.
Okay, well, sorry to interrupt, but I don't believe it says that. That is just an informal agreement that we made.
They're there. Are the council's rule of order not on hand? Let's pull them up.
Well, let's have a discussion. I believe the city attorney wants us to discuss your request, as I understand it, Mr. Spears, just so I get it right, is that you be allowed to attend via your remote connection this closed session about the possible acquisition of real property. Is that right?
That was not my request.
Well, okay, why don't you clearly state, let's let Mr. Spears clearly state his request.
I don't have a request, I have an objection
okay. And
to closed session.
yeah,
Question.
and maybe the clarity can come in, because I was the one that said, because I remember the lawyer said that a person remote can, if there's an objection, they cannot be a part of the meeting. And I was saying, well, I don't object to him being here. So I think that's where that all started.
There is an objection on the floor from Mr. Waddell.
Right.
So I believe that we need to have a discussion, and then council members that are present, there are 5 of us, that we will then vote on whether Mr. Spears, Madam Attorney, help me here, but yes, we will then vote on whether in the affirmative, how should I phrase the question? Should the objection be held, or how do you want me to phrase that properly?
So I think that what council would be voting on right now, so according to your rules, I'm sorry, it's pointed the other direction. So according to your rules, council member participation shall be in person for all regular business meetings and closed sessions except at exceptional need. And so if a council member is requesting to participate remotely in a closed session that is scheduled in person, a council member may object to any proposed remote participation at such meeting. So that would be what Councilmember Waddell has done now, is object to Councilman Spears. And so such objections shall be raised. And then, let's see, it says, no debate or discussion of the request or any objection thereto shall occur. The presiding official shall initially determine whether the remote participation is in order. So if Mayor Pro Tem does not believe that there is an exceptional need, then you could make that determination first, or you can consider the objection and then vote on whether or not Mr. Spears would be allowed to participate remotely. So you can either make that determination yourself, or you can vote on Mr. Waddell's objection.
Is it possible for me to get an informal consensus?
It says that there is no debate on that question, so council would just vote as opposed to having a debate.
I think what Councilman Waddell, and I don't want to speak for him, Kevin, I know you won't let me, but you said you merely had an objection, not a request to participate in this meeting. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct, Mr. Ravenbach.
In that situation, the vote to go into closed session has already been taken and voted on, and so we are already past that objection.
We're past that objection. I believe that the consensus, Mr. Barnett does not agree, but I believe the consensus is to move on with the meeting with those present.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Could you please take a vote on that and consider it to be Mr. Waddell's objection?
I thought we didn't need it.
I thought I get to just look around and see what people are nodding their head, and I thought you just told me that the presiding officer has to tell you.
I'm sorry, so you're not going to take a vote. That's fine then. Yes, ma'am, your determination's fine.
Well,
There was
I've got
a council objection because I didn't request anything. I just objected to the closed session.
We're not voting on your objection. That has passed. What we're voting on is that Mr. Waddell has placed on the floor an objection to your being allowed to attend remotely.
Margaret, you're not listening. I didn't request to attend remotely, so he's not objecting anything.
All right, yeah, agreed. So let's move into closed session.
Closed session.
Do we need any further action to move into closed session?
No, sir.
So we would, at this point, move into closed session, and there would be no remote. That would be.
Yes, ma'am.
Dylan,
We would
you
shut
got that?
everything off. Yes, ma'am.
All right. At this time, we are now moving into closed session. I believe only those in the room are those participating. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Kara's leaving. Give us just 1 second here. Dylan, you let me know when we're set that it's just the people in the room that are attuned to this. It's going to be just a minute. Okay, just give me the thumbs up.